Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Movesets video for the new 7th generation Pokemon. Today's video is going to be all about Gumshoos, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Gumshoos is a normal type Pokemon that possesses 3 really good offensive abilities, the first of which probably being the most interesting, which is a new ability known as Stakeout. This ability has a really cool effect in that it makes it so that anytime your opponent switches out while Gumshoos is currently in battle, whatever Pokemon it switches out to will actually take double damage from your attacks for the turn that it switches out. And this is huge because it allows this Pokemon to do insane amounts of damage and could even work around a set to basically force your opponent to switch out and make use of this amazing ability. As for its next ability though, it is known as Strong Jaw, which is a great ability that increases the power of any biting type moves by 50%, and then it also gets Adaptability as its hidden ability, which will increase the power of its normal type attacks. As for its stats though, Gumshoos is not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, possessing both 80 HP, 60 defense, and 60 special defense, meaning that this Pokemon really won't be able to stick around to take too many hits, but because its HP is at least decent, it may be able to take 1 or 2 if it's obviously not super effective. As for its attacking stats though, it has base 110 physical attack, which is very strong, allowing this Pokemon to hit very hard from the physical side. However, its special attack is only base 55, so you can't really make too good of a use of that. And then lastly, this Pokemon is fairly slow, possessing base 45 speed, meaning that it is on the slower end of the spectrum of strong attackers. However, if you still are able to play around its abilities and attack power successfully, this speed won't matter because you'll be doing so much damage with your attacks. But with that, let's take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to start off by giving Gumshoos either a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack. And for the ability, going with any of the 3 options because they all actually work with this moveset, and it really just depends on the moves you select to maximize the damage potential of each of these abilities. But for the EVs, we're going to max out its physical attack with 252 EVs into that stat, 4 into its special defense, and then max out its speed with 252 EVs into that stat. And then for the item, choosing between any of these options to increase your attack power, whether it be a Choice Band to boost your physical attack, a Choice Scarf to make you faster, a Life Orb to boost the damage of all of your attacks but lower your HP by 10% each time you damage your opponent, an Expert Belt to boost the damage of super effective attacks, a Silk Scarf to boost the damage of your normal type moves, an Assault Vest to give you a little bit more special bulk and possibly live a hit or 2 that you normally wouldn't, or Leftovers to allow this Pokemon to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. As for the moves though, the first one that we're going to go with is going to be our main stab normal type attack in the form of either Return, Hyper Fang, or Thrash. Of these 3 options, Return and Thrash work best when used with Adaptability or Stakeout, Hyper Fang being the one that works best when you use the Strong Jaw ability, because it will boost its power significantly, and you can also make use of that flinch chance that Hyper Fang does have. Thrash, on the other hand, is a little bit more risky when you do use it, just because it locks you into a move, and it also will confuse you at the end of it, but it is more powerful than Return if you do want to go that route. However, with the other abilities that aren't Strong Jaw, Return, and even Frustration for that matter, will be doing the most normal type damage. As for your next attack though, Crunch and Pursuit are there for dark type coverage to allow you to hit the ghost type super effectively that would normally be immune to your normal type moves. Crunch being another move that is boosted by Strong Jaw, so you can net some extra damage there, but Pursuit is a particularly interesting move, especially when combined with Stakeout, because if your opponent does want to risk you having this ability and switch out into something they think can probably take a return, Pursuit is a really good way to hit the opponent before they're able to switch out, and possibly net you some extra damage on whatever was currently in battle as well, as opposed to having to necessarily choose to hit something really hard that switches in that could possibly resist your return. So it's a kind of an interesting mind game when using this with the Stakeout ability, but it's very cool to use nonetheless. And for your third attacking option, either going with Earthquake or Super Fang, Earthquake being the one to give you some more type coverage, which is really great because it'll allow you a way to hit the Rock and Steel types super effectively that resist your normal type move. But Super Fang is just a great move in general, as it allows you to basically just half your opponent's HP, and who wouldn't want to do that? But for the last move on this set, we're going to run U-Turn as a way to give this Pokemon some bug type coverage, which is really cool, but more so give it a way to maneuver around the battlefield a little bit easier, and possibly give you some switch initiative, which is also really good if you're running Stakeout, because if your opponent does switch and you use U-turn when they switch, U-turn's going to do a heck of a lot of damage because of a Stakeout's ability. As for this next moveset, it's basically designed to maximize the use of Stakeout to force your opponent to switch in various situations. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and going with the Stakeout ability with the same EV spread as the previous set of 252 physical attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs. As to the item, a couple of options here will work, including leftovers, a life orb, or a silk scarf, and any of these could have different effects, whether you want to boost the power of this Pokemon through the life orb or silk scarf, or just increase its survivability a little bit by giving it leftovers. For the moves though, the first one we're going to go with on this set is going to be either Yawn or Taunt, and both of these have very interesting properties to help abuse the Stakeout ability. Yawn in particular though, being a 2-turn-ish move that basically makes your opponent drowsy, and if they stay in on the following turn, they're going to be put to sleep. And why would your opponent want to be put to sleep? So if you do Yawn your opponent, chances are they're going to want to switch out, which basically gives you a free opportunity to get a super-powered return off on whatever it switches into. So that's one way to use this. The other way is to use Taunt, which is a really good way of possibly crippling any stally Pokemon that rely on moves for their own recovery, status, or anything to support their team. And this could also deter them from staying in over time as well. So if you taunt a Pokemon, it probably, can't really use its moves that it wants to, so it's going to want to switch out, and then you hit it with a really powerful return because of Stakeout. So those are two kind of really interesting moves that basically help to amplify Stakeout's potential. Then for your next attack, either going with Pursuit, Crunch, or Earthquake. Pursuit being even more effective on this set, because if you do Yawn them, and they do want to switch out, and you want to hit the thing that's currently in for increased damage, Pursuit is a great way to go. But again, Crunch and Earthquake give you some really great type coverage just to kind of complement Return's weaknesses. And then for the last move slot, going with U-turn again, or possibly even Substitute on this set. And U-turn's particularly good on this set too, because again, if you Yawn something, it might want to switch out. Then you U-turn when they switch out, get a very powerful Stakeout boosted U-turn, and then come into something that can counter whatever your opponent brings in. Or anticipate maybe Gumshoos' ability to deal with whatever switches in and go for a substitute, with which then you can either go for, return or one of your other attacking moves on the set to deal damage to whatever just switched in. So there's a lot of really cool mind games you can play with this particular set that allows it to basically do a lot of damage through either forcing switches or just supporting your team by possibly providing taunt support, U-turn support through giving you switch initiative, or just putting something to sleep with Yawn. Finally, for this last moveset, we're going to run a Boasting Gumshoos, but we're going to run the same nature and EV spread as the previous sets, but for the ability, going with the Strong Jaw or Adaptability ability, because our goal with the set isn't necessarily to cause switches, but rather do as much damage with our attacks as possible. So for the item, in addition to the options that you've seen already on the previous set of Leftovers, Life Orb, and Silk Scarf, we're also going to throw Normalium Z into the mix here, due to the fact that it has some very interesting effects on the first move of the set, which is either going to be Work Up or Scary Face. Work Up is a move that normally increases your physical attack and your special attack by 1 stage, which is really great for any mixed attacker. However, we're only interested in the physical attack boost because of the way that Gumshoos stats are distributed. But when you use Work Up with Normalium Z and use quote-unquote Work Up Z, you also get an additional +1 physical attack boost, essentially giving you a Swords Dance, which unfortunately this Pokemon does not learn. So it's a good way to boost your attack by 2 stages. Additionally, you could also run Normalium Z with Scary Face, which in addition to lowering your opponent's speed by 2 stages, which is excellent for Gumshoos due to the fact that it has a very low speed stat, and could just be a useful move in general to use with this Pokemon, when you use Scary Face in combination with Normalium Z, it also increases your speed by 1 stage, which is very useful to allow this Pokemon to deal more damage to its opponents. As for its attacks though, the first one we're going to go with is going to be Return or Hyper Fang as your main normal type stab, Return obviously being for the Adaptability ability, and Hyper Fang being for the Strong Jaw ability. Additionally, you can just use this with Normalium Z as well to have a really powerful normal type attack to hit your opponent with, so that is something to keep in mind if you don't want to use it with one of the first moves on the set. But to give you coverage again, going with Crunch and Earthquake, Crunch also getting that additional boost by Strong Jaw if you do run that ability on this Pokemon, and Earthquake giving you some additional type coverage to kind of round things off, and allow Gumshoos to hit the majority of Pokemon that you're going to be up against for either neutral or super effective damage. But that is it for this video, everybody, so I hope you enjoyed these sets on Gumshoos. I personally am very excited to use this Pokemon because I think it has a lot of potential, especially with the Stakeout ability because it is so unique, and with the Choice Band on the Stakeout set that I gave you in the first moveset of this video, you are able to do insane amounts of damage to even physical walls that would normally be able to come in and resist your attacks. But with that, everybody, that is it for this video, so as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.